how do you know your guru is a pure devotee? It's like, well, the answer is very simple, because he has the official title and role of guru within this organization, which automatically means that's what, like, to be a guru in this organization, you must be a pure devotee. He is a guru in this organization, therefore he is a pure devotee. The organization is purely spiritual. And then when it turns out that he's not, you lose all your faith in absolutely everything, through all the layers, all the way down to the existence of Krishna himself, We don't, but you have such a deep sense of betrayal, and you no longer know what's real. You can't discriminate or distinguish anything, and you go away. Yeah, could you please speak to that, Maharaj?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the price to pay for over-absolutizing the relative. Again, the mission is faultless, spotless, absolutely transcendental. And what's the mission? Again, we use the words, the mission, but what's the mission? Sometimes we mix mission as you have an internal mission in your life, but another thing is the relative institution with all the things that any institution will have, or what you mentioned again, the guru, you have the post that speaks about the internal world, and that's not necessarily the case. It should be, ideally, if you are serving in that capacity, you should be someone advanced. But even, let's boil it down to definition of terms, because sometimes they would say he's a pure devotee, and the question is, what's a pure devotee? Because every person will use the phrase, but everyone may have a different idea. So what's a pure devotee? What do you mean by that? You mean like an Uttam Bhagavat, someone who attained Prem, someone who is beyond whatever, certain stage in particular? So what's a pure... We should start by defining the terms and understand and see if we are talking all the same thing, because someone says it's a pure devotee. What's a pure devotee? For some it will be even Nityasiddha. For some will be he's someone who descends from Golok Vrindavan and is an eternal associate of Krishna. And of course the question is, how do you know? Again,
exactly. I was going to ask, how do you know you are pure devotee?
And this is not to challenge anyone and to disturb anyone's faith. Just to make it clear, it's not that we are going here asking everyone, how do you know your guru is a pure devotee? How do you know that's not my point. But the point is, and of course at the end
of the day, that's a good question though.
Yeah,
that's a good inquiry to be.
Yeah.
That we should.
And with that, we go into the world of honesty,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to be responsible, that's something, a conclusion that I'm reaching myself. It's my choice. That, like I spoke once with one devotee, say, I have the faith that my guru is an eternal associate of Krishna. I say, okay, I respect your faith. I'm not here to question that. I trust you have your reasons for that. You have had certain experiences and probably revelations, and I'm fine with that. I'm not trying here to interrupt the faith of everyone, but we should, as you mentioned, we should put those questions in our mind, because if not, we are just accepting everything without discernment, without filtering, and everyone is a pure devotee. And as you mentioned, a certain guru that unfortunately has some moral lapse or fails in one way or another, as has happened quite a few times, then how to accommodate that? Because everything was totally over-absolutized, and now the whole building collapses, and you go from one extreme to another. You go from black and white, and there were no gray in between, because you were not trained to think in a more nuanced way, because everything is totally absolute and perfect. But when there's some cracking in the absolute perfection, everything becomes failure and fraud and cheating. And I've seen that a lot, and you can imagine how painful that is. I mean, it's not a celebration to see so many people having their faith destroyed, the heart broken. Of course, each one of us have to choose. We are also responsible to choosing to accept everything over absolutized without discernment, or to really try to think for ourselves. And even if we have some gut feeling, this is not correct, or this is too much, there has to be place for asking those things, because if not, we enter into this arena where you are stigmatized. If you question some things, if you ask about certain things, you have not enough faith, you are a rebel, and so on. And people start to get afraid to ask certain questions. So you just have to fit with the narrative. And that becomes more and more like a totalitarian regime, basically, more than a free flow movement of love. No, it's just, this is the official narrative. This is the only questions allowed. If you are asking these other questions, you are out. Sorry. you are labeled as a dropout or as an enemy or whatever. And sometimes that happens without bad intention, but it tends in that direction. So an institution is an institution. It will have the relative elements, the failures of any institution.